How does Impale work? I'm playing Earthshatter Champion, but I don't actually know how the mechanic works. There's a big explanation that we could go into. Here's a hopefully not too long version of how Impale works. Ready? Here's my latest invention, dark mode on Microsoft Paint. Okay, here's how Impale works, right? You look like this, and you've got a big O axe in your hand, yeah? And then there's a bad guy. What's a bad guy look like? It's a bad dog. Okay, so you're gonna hit an enemy, and let's say that you have a 100% chance to impale, because hopefully your Impale build has a 100% chance to impale. When you hit the enemy, you're gonna hit and deal 1,000 damage, right? You're gonna deal 1,000 damage, and because you hit one time, you're also applying 1 stack of Impale. So what Impale does, it is reflected damage that the enemy deals to itself. So Impale says store 10% of the damage as Impale and reflect it over the next 5 hits. So if you smack the enemy, you hit it. Let's use Heavy Strike, because Heavy Strike is like the most boring skill in the world. You're gonna bonk the enemy for 1,000 damage. You deal 1,000 damage. Its life goes down. Great. But then it also has a stack of Impale. And 1 stack of Impale is reflected over the next 5 hits. So it has a stack of Impale, and it's storing 100 damage. Which means that the next time you hit it, this is your first, let's say first. This is your first hit right here, right? The second time you hit the monster, you're gonna deal 1,000 damage plus any impales. So there's currently 1 impale on the monster, and it's stored 100 damage from this. So this plus 100 means that you are... The enemy's life is now going down by 1,100. Now, I used very specific wording there, right? I said the enemy's life is going down by 1,100. Your first impale, your first stack impale, stored 100 damage, right? Your second stack of impale is also storing 100 damage. It is not storing 110 damage, because this is reflected damage that the monster deals to itself, and it's not your hit damage. So if you think about it, your first hit deals 1,000 damage. Your second hit deals 1,000 damage, but then the monster also deals damage to itself. So it's going to look like the monster loses 1,100 life. And now it has 2 stacks of Impale. So your third hit is going to deal the same 1,000 damage, but it's going to consume 2 stacks of Impale. Your fourth hit will deal 1,300. Your fifth hit is 1,400 damage, right? So this applies the first stack. This applies the second stack. This applies the third stack. This applies the fourth stack. This applies the fifth stack. So then it's going to be 1,500 damage. And then from there on out, all of your hits against the enemy are going to deal... Every time you hit the enemy will lose 1,500 life. And there's that weird wording again, right? So your first hit does this, and then your damage ramps up and eventually tapers off at 1,500. If you are a champion and you have your Impale's last 1 additional hit, then it ramps up 1 additional time to 1,600. If you have an Impale Watcher's Eye that says your Impale's last additional hit, again, your damage will ramp up 1 more stage, one little bit higher. So that's how Impale works. Does that make sense? We good?